Welcome back to Gameday Tarps episode 13. How are we doing today, fellas?
Great.
Pretty good.
Awesome. I want to start off with a relevant topic today in the Hockey Fights Cancer Month. It was actually Hockey Fights Cancer Day in a lot of games today. I just learned that a couple days ago, a guy I played hockey with, Austin Braid, passed away from brain cancer. Really sorry to hear that for his family. And for guys who were closer to him, I was a young 16-year-old when he was 18 or 19, 20-year-old on the team. So I didn't really get to know him, but still sucks to hear a guy you play with passes away from something so uncontrollable. All I know and remember of him is he always had a smile on his face, and he was always laughing and making guys have a fun time. So mad respect to him for the life he did live, and I hope that his family can find some peace in that unfortunate situation he went through with brain cancer. So just wanted to get that out of the way first off and go from there. Okay, on to the NHL news. The NHL has decided to release an NFT that gets you 6 highlights for $19.99. I want to know your guys' thoughts on the NHL releasing an NFT that basically doesn't get you anything. Like, the highlights will not be specifically kept for you. Like, they will still be put on TSN, Sports Center, ESPN, TNT. They will still be shown around on all the social media platforms. Like, why do you think this took them 2 years to get set up? Why do you think that they'd want to release this NFT for $20? You get 6 highlights that you can just look up on YouTube. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, NFTs are so out of date now. Like, the hype train had already left the station a long time ago. Like, I don't hear anything about NFTs anymore. And like you said, Riley, you could literally go online on NHL.com, TSN.com, et cetera, or even YouTube, and look up these highlights. And yet you're paying a subscription for like $20 for this NFT. Just doesn't make sense.
Patrick Kane this week began talking to teams. He narrowed his teams down to Tampa Bay, Dallas, Toronto, Florida, Buffalo, Detroit, and Carolina. And then we just had news the other day that he did, in fact, pick Detroit on a 1-year, $2.7 million contract. What are you guys thought on Kane going to Detroit, arguably the biggest rival of the Chicago Blackhawks?
Well, I kind of expected it. I thought he was going to go with, they're obviously wanting to be a contender this year, and they're showing it big time this year. And I think ultimately he just wanted to play alongside his buddy as well, the Brinket. And I think he's going to fit right in with that squad perfectly, honestly.
I thought it was going to be really down to the 3 teams, either back to the Rangers, his hometown of Buffalo, New York, or honestly, even as you called it even a couple episodes ago, Dakota, that he was going to be going to the Red Wings, which was a high destination for Patty Kane. I mean, great. He's going to be playing with Alex DeBrincat again. It's going to be awesome. Like, the hype in Motown is going ballistic right now. The hype train is real. The guys are playing. It's coming together, and I really do think that Detroit is back as a contender again.
Sorry, Riley.
No, go ahead.
I did see that he also declined multiple multi-year deals. So was that, I didn't see which teams were offering him multi-year deals. I didn't read into that too much, but do you guys think it would be because the money wasn't high enough for him, and that's why he chose the lower deal or the less year deal with Detroit? Or
I bet
my thoughts,
it was probably the all-around best deal, I think. I think he was probably getting multiple years for less money, which he didn't want. And I bet he was getting 1-year deals on a team like Buffalo that is out of the playoff picture for maybe more money. But, he's not looking to, play on Buffalo for 1 season and then miss the playoffs and just play hockey. Like, he's trying to get in the playoffs and do something. And obviously Buffalo wasn't that. But next year, in the offseason now, he can choose. If he wants to go to Buffalo, he can go to Buffalo. I think it's smart that he's just going to bounce around on 1-year deals. It's even smarter because I found out this year he can't qualify for the 35-year-old because at the beginning of this year he was 34. So he couldn't sign $750K with bonuses. But next year he can go to any cap strap team, sign a vet minimum $750, and get like $10 million in bonuses or whatever that may be to play for them. So I think that's his goal, is to get more in bonuses and then fit himself onto a real cup contender next year if they have room. Just Detroit had the best options this year for him, I think.
Personally, I'm going to add to that comment. I mean, Patty Kane in the hockey world is known for winning. He's always had that winning culture with the team he's been with forever, the Chicago Blackhawks. And like you said, he's going to want that 1 year deal because he's not going to want to stick around for 3-4 years on a team that's going all in on 1 year and then start rebuilding the next. So he's going to want to jump around before he retires and see if he can still stay with that winning culture from town to town.
I agree. Milan Lucic, we got the news on him after his arrest that he was released on his own reconnaissance after pleading not guilty. As conditions of the deal, he's prohibited from abusing the alleged victim, which seems pretty obvious, and prohibited from consuming alcohol. They have a pre-trial hearing for January 19th, so sounds like Luch kind of got out of the water a little bit, but he's still got to go through the rest of the trial process. But still a sad story for him, and hoping that him and his family can figure their way forward, whichever that is. Also, Sam Girard. Oh, sorry, you got one thing?
Yeah, I was just going to add to the Lucic thing. I mean, it looks like we're starting to see a lot of that now with players abusing alcohol. I mean, we got Corey Perry news now that came out. And also recently today I seen that Buffalo Bills, Von Miller even, there's a warrant out for his arrest for abusing his pregnant wife. So it's just kind of sad to see that, like, you know, all these like childhood heroes now are just abusing alcohol.
I think that's one thing that's really good about these NHL podcasts. If you get the right guy on, the right guy who struggled and came through, like Brian McGrattan is actually a huge one. If you go and listen to any interview of Brian McGrattan now, especially because with the Flames, his job now is total, anyone can come to him. He doesn't have to talk to management. He doesn't have to talk to ownership. They can come to him that they're struggling with drugs and alcohol, and he'll deal with it. And I think that's an important position for all these teams to bring in more guys like that. But you listen to Brian McGrattan in any interview on any podcast that he's been a part of, and he's fantastic. He's telling you the alcohol he was consuming, like in dangerous amounts. He's telling you the drugs he was doing and the drugs other guys were doing. And like that the NHL really has a bad culture of drug and alcohol. And like realistically, you think about all these pro sports leagues, and you always hear them say, oh, like this guy gets suspended for drug use, that guy. You don't hear that in the NHL. Yet it's extremely, extremely common for these guys to have elevated alcohol levels and drug use in their system of whatever drug it may be. The hard part is obviously the marijuana, because it's legal one state, not legal in another state, so it's hard to regulate that one. But cocaine is rampant in the NHL for guys, and it's a big addiction. And I think that it's something that they need to crack down on, is testing on it and suspending guys and holding guys out and making them go to the player assistant program if they have that in their system. The MLB sits guys for having the wrong product in their hair. It's so strict on steroids.
They're like the SS
right?
Gestapo, those umpires now. Anytime the pitcher comes off the mound, they're checking everywhere for foreign substances. Like, they've really ramped up in the MLB of always checking the pitchers now for foreign substances. Like, it's almost becoming anal. It's like Max Scherzer was a prime example of giving attitude towards the umpires, which honestly he has every right to. I would too, because you know what? It's getting ridiculously stupid the amount of times you have to come on and off the mound every single time. You need to be checked. Like, you know what?
I think
miss me with that.
The problem with that is the managers can request the ump. So, like, let's say, Blue Jays versus Mariners or whatever, right? Blue Jays can be like, hey, we see something on the pitcher, ump, go check it out. Then in response, the next inning, Mariners go, hey, ump, something's on the Blue Jays pitcher. It's not. He knows it. But he's sending a message back like, hey, don't send out him to our pitcher. We're going to send him out to yours. Right? Like, it's
it can be a game, but you know what? Defining the game now is that they've wanted to condense the game into shorter, because MLB has the longest playing time of any sport, even though when they're actually in the game, they're hardly even moving. But you know what? Like, I think the average ball game now is 2 hours and 9 minutes, which is great. But you know what? The amount of times you send the umpire out to the mound to check the pitchers, you're just stopping the game even more now. So you're literally defeating the purpose of having these games more condensed and, more play time and fans can get out of there quicker. But you know what? I think it, like you said, it's a game and I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and back to your point, Dak. So Sam Girard, also from the Colorado Avalanche, just entered the program for anxiety and depression leading to alcohol abuse, and now, like you've said, this entire Corey Perry story that took the absolute league by storm with what happened and all the speculation and everything. He comes out saying that he has to now correct himself and get help for alcohol abuse, and you wonder, like, now we're seeing that's 3 in the last month.
And then you got Galchenyuk
4
earlier this year.
Right?
4.
Yeah, Galchenyuk.
Yeah,
And
because
one more
the body cam footage of the police officer has finally been publicly released, and that's another prime example. If that were caught sooner and he was entering the program, he could have saved himself so much turmoil in the public eye.
Exactly. I don't know. I feel like these guys, it's just, I don't know what makes it getting worse, especially because most of these guys are veterans, right? Like Girard's a young guy, but he's like a 6-year NHL vet now. And Perry's like 18 years or whatever, and Milan Lucic is 10 to 12 years, whatever he's at now. Like, these are guys who, when you say it's free agency, right? Like it just was. Why was Corey Perry brought in? To be a leader in the locker room and to be a trusted veteran. Why was Milan Lucic brought in? To be a leader in the locker room and a trusted veteran. And they're the ones all of a sudden struggling the most. Like, that to me is weird how this is starting to come out. Maybe because their careers are declining and they're struggling with ending it or whatever it may be. But I just don't get how it's getting worse instead of better. Like, I don't know if they're doing preseason meetings on alcohol and substance abuse. I believe they are. Brian McGrattan said they do in Calgary, but I don't know if that's happening anywhere else. And I just think it's something that is plaguing so many guys. And, everyone's got so much pressure on them to stay in the league and to win an NHL roster spot. Like, it's hard to see.
Well, I mean,
the crazy thing is too is like it's not like these guys are severely declining in their I guess stage in their career. I guess like Perry's was one of the like leading scorers on the Blackhawks, which I don't think a lot of people expected, but he was. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what would have caused him. Like maybe he just decided to have too many to drink. It happens, and then whatever. But if it starts happening continuously, like what's going on behind closed doors? Like on the ice, you're great, but what's happening behind these closed doors that no one's aware of?
I think importantly, like the NHL has, well, even any major sports, like they have these programs set up for players because we're all human. Things always go on and professionally at the workplace or at home, but you know what? We're all human. It's okay to not be okay. And I hope that some of these players go into these programs quicker before things start rapidly snowballing into certain situations like we had with Corey Perry and Milan Lucic. Like, unfortunately, it happens. It gets to there, but you know what? I just wish that people would open up more about their mental health and, have people there to support them before things start spiraling,
Yeah, and one thing that didn't help, actually, I saw goalie Chris Drieger. I don't know if you guys saw this. He was on a podcast, and I don't know Chris Drieger, and he was a guy who worked hard to get the few games he did in the NHL. But he said he entered the assistance program, and he was like, cussing them out, saying they're horrible. And like, first off, they said, "Hey, what do you think of the NHL assistant program? They're doing so good. They're helping guys out." And then he was basically just like, no comment. And they were like, "Oh, really?" And then he couldn't hold back. He was just like, "F that. They suck. They tried. They threaten your contract. They threaten you the whole time you're in there, saying like you're never going to get back to the NHL." And he was just going off. And I was just like, I don't know, man, because we got, Sam Girard just willingly went into this program. We've had more guys willingly go in, not forced
Carey
to
Price
go in.
in a prime example too.
Yeah, exactly. And
a big name.
And you would think that if it was that bad, the way that Drieger said, that guys wouldn't be volunteering to go in. And maybe for Drieger it was bad, but at the same time, he was a fringe NHL goalie. Who knows how bad he was being? Like, if he was not following the steps, if he was, not taking the the proper care of himself, and maybe he was even, verbally abusing the people helping him. Like, who's to say that he just wasn't doing what he was supposed to do, and now he's going off saying it was terrible? And they were. I wouldn't doubt it if he was like, I'm done here. I don't want to be a part of this program anymore. This was stupid for me to come. And they're like, well, we literally can't let you back in the league because you came here. We have to sign off on you. That's not them holding you hostage. That's them following their legal parameters. So not saying that is what happened because we don't know. And that was just a quick snippet I saw. But I was like, I don't think that's right. Like, more guys need to be going into this program because at the end of the day, who gives a crap about your NHL career if you get out and you're an alcoholic and you abuse your wife or you abuse your kids, right? Like, what's the point of playing in the NHL if you're living that kind of a life? So I think it's good that guys are using it.
Well, I don't think you can use it if your contract isn't terminated. I think you still have to be within your contract to be able to want that help, and then they can choose to terminate you after.
Yeah.
So I think if you're terminated, like, you have no chance.
It does depend because I know that the PA did arrange for people with CTE to get help from the NHL. So I don't know. I know that's like brain injury versus like chosen alcohol or addiction, but at the same time, it could be related. And I think that they might still be responsible for ex-players that need the assistance. Just kind of like the Army or the Navy in the United States, how they take care of the veterans with, addiction problems. They'll cover rehab and stuff for them if they have PTSD leading to it or whatever. Then it could be, I think it's the same type of situation.
Well, maybe. I'm just saying I think like the player's assistance thing is within the contract rights or your
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So if that's terminated, then it's not paid for by the NHL. Is kind of like what I mean, right? Like it's not kind of given to you.
Yeah, it could be. I'm not sure. Also in Chicago, Taylor Hall is out for the rest of the year, unfortunately, so they will be missing him. So now they're out Perry, they're out Hall. They just traded for Beauvillier from Vancouver. And then that Vancouver trade for Beauvillier opened up the cap for them to today just acquire Nikita Zadorov from the Calgary Flames for let me read it here, a 2024 fifth, which is originally Chicago's, and a 2026 third round pick. So that is what Calgary got in exchange for Zadorov, which Vancouver got moving out Beauvillier. So what do you guys think of all those moves corresponding for the Blackhawks getting Beauvillier, adding some more depth, and then Zadorov coming in to really make the top six of the Canucks a very sturdy six?
Well, if you look at Vancouver's blue line, you got on the left side, you got Quinn Hughes, you got Carson Soucy, you got Nikita Zadorov, and even there have been talks about having Ethan Bear suiting up coming back in December. He has about, I think, quite a handful of teams on his list that he wants to sign with, and I think a reunion in Vancouver would be great for him. And I think bolstering that blue line with Nikita Zadorov today, like, yeah, they got a big guy. Like Ian Cole, he's 6'1", and he's a big boy out there, but having Nikita Zadorov at 6'6" now, yeah, that's going to be a scary blue line to match up against.
I don't know if they have room for Bear now, because they have Ian Cole, Tyler Myers, and who's their top pair D with Hughes?
Phil Hronek.
Right, Hronek. So it's Hronek and Myers, and I guess they're pushing Ian Cole to the right D, and then they have Soucy, Hughes, and Zadorov.
Well, Zadorov plays right D as well.
He can play right D, so maybe him and Cole are like the third pairing. But then who did they just scratch then? Who would have been their 17?
Podkolzin.
Yeah, so Podkolzin. Or no, he's a forward, isn't he? Or is he a D?
I think he's a D.
Yeah, maybe. Either way, so they're deep. Like, I don't know if they need Ethan Bear. Maybe if an injury comes up, but I wouldn't think that they have the cap now to do it since they brought in Zadorov's whole contract with none retained.
Well, I'm also pretty sure that Tyler Myers' contract is coming up next year too. So if they could move his $3 million, that would really free up a lot of space for having Ethan Bear come back.
For sure.
Well, as far as the Zadorov trade, I dig it as a Flames fan. It opens up cap wise. We get some future picks, which I think this team desperately needs now. If Zadorov is the stepping stone to the potential retool that they like to use, I hope to see that brings back Coronado hopefully within the next month or so. And yeah, I mean, I think they're looking to do the sign and trade with Hannafin still, potentially get Tanev out. Either, I don't think Tanev's like as fastly needed to get traded. He'll probably be like a deadline kind of guy. Yeah, but Zadorov to like a division rival kind of sucks. I mean, he's a big body. He's got some offensive upside to him. I think he's a better Tyler Myers for them. So that's deadly. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good trade. I know a lot of Flames fans probably wanted like a young prospect in return, but at the same time though, like we still got other assets we can trade this year that we could get better younger prospects, or not younger, but just better prospects than what Vancouver has to offer. And I don't know, I think I'm excited to see what Conroy is next, honestly.
Yeah, so I want to actually jump right into that. Oh, sorry, Dal. You go ahead and then I'll go.
I just wanted to correct myself. I was thinking of Tucker Pullman, not Podkolzin. It's Tucker Pullman that's a defenseman.
Fair enough. So what are our thoughts? What do we think the Calgary Flames are going to do the rest of the year? I know, Dak, you want them to sell and start to use some of these younger guys, but do you think that they're actually going to trade? Like, do you think they're going to trade everyone? Do you think only a couple guys are actually going to get traded? Or what are your thoughts on the outlook of what should and could actually happen?
Well, I think Conroy is just trying to learn from Tree Living's mistake, right? I mean, you got these guys that are all in the last year of their contract. You don't want to lose them for free, right? Or for nothing. So I think he's going to press them. Like, I think he's pressing Lindholm to re-sign, essentially. But if at the end of the day Lindholm says, like, no, I want to go somewhere else, then I think sooner than later he's going to push them out of there, right? Whether, like, I think they'll get, probably players in return that might be older players that are on like a 1-year deal or whatever that will maybe lose in free agency, but like guys that they probably don't care about, just rentals to either make that wild card push if they're still doing that run with these guys leaving or not. I think it's exciting. I mean, they're not at the bottom; they're fighting for that wild card spot, and in the middle of it, they're also doing some shopping. So, I'm here for it.
Has joined Bobby Orr 5 times, Al McInnes 1 time, as the only 3 defensemen to start the year with 30 points in fewer than 20 games in NHL history. It's definitely unprecedented what this kid is doing. They gave him the captaincy, and he is a whole new man. And, at the beginning of the year, I'm even going to walk back on myself a little bit here. I was probably the harshest one out of the 3 of us as a critic of the Canucks. They've definitely made me eat my words. I mean, Pettersson, playing stronger, playing harder, looking dominant out there. Hughes has really gotten past any of those questions about his size. His skating ability to be able to break up plays on defense is just vastly better than it was the last couple of years. And he doesn't need to be physical anymore to try and separate guys. He's using his feet and his hands to do it. And I just think that, 3 guys with over 30 points, all near the top of the league in scoring, they're just fantastic. But back to Quinn Hughes, he's doing a fantastic thing. Do you guys think he is the Norris Trophy leading candidate right now? See your guy?
It's got to be between him and Makar. Makar's 1 less point behind him and 1 less game. And look at Makar tonight, guys. I think he got 2 or 3 points tonight. So, but
yeah,
Vancouver as a whole has definitely surpassed my expectations of them this year. Quinn Hughes with the C on his chest, I think, has definitely brought a whole new, more just energy, I guess, to the team, or more confidence, I guess, to the player. He's become more confident, and they're running wild with it, and they're exciting this year to watch too.
Yeah, Quinn Hughes is honestly the best defenseman in the world right now. Like, they came into the season, he was the least vocal guy in that locker room, and then ever since he got to see, just a beast has an awaken in him, and he is just taking it by the horns, and he is leading the Canucks to second in the Pacific, third in the NHL, and it's just crazy. Last time I looked, he had 33 points and phenomenal numbers. Like, he is my candidate for the Norris Trophy this year, and I feel like he is comfortably going to surpass 100 points with ease. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and I actually heard there was a question like, do people think he can hit like 150 or even like 120 as a defenseman? Now, 120 has only really been done by Orr and McInnes as well. So it's like,
To
I
me,
don't think so.
150 is a little bit of a stretch. I think there's going to be a point where Vancouver is definitely going to hit a slowdown. I hope not, but I think it's going to happen. I think all the players are going to get frustrated at some point in this season. Things aren't going to go their way, but I do see him being like past 100 points for sure this year.
Yeah, I
Like, he's
thought
also a
120
guy
was a
that
little
was
high.
competing. Yeah, he was also competing with Nikita Kucherov right now for even most points in the league right now. Like, you're going up against one of the best players in the world, Nikita Kucherov, and you're doing this as a defenseman. Like, you're just showing people, all the doubters, that you know don't don't stain my name, man. I'm here to f shit up, and yeah, this is the year for the Canucks. It's very exciting to be a Canucks fan.
And I
Yeah,
mean,
and
it is kind of. Oh, sorry, Riley.
no worries.
Sorry.
And just like for 120 points from a defenseman, when like just a couple years ago when Kucherov hit 128 points, that hadn't been done in what 38 years or something. And then yes, McDavid passed him the very next year or whatnot, but like it took how long for that to be broken, and now all of a sudden we're just talking about 120 points for defenseman. Like just because he's leading the league now, it's just automatic. He should get 120 points. Like that's ridiculous. That's almost like was that 1.25 points a game, 1.3. Like that's insane for a defenseman to keep that pace up, especially as it gets closer to playoffs. He's gonna have to start playing harder. He's gonna have to start defending more. He's gonna have to start focusing on the team game. I think he finishes 108 as a high mark. And I think if he really falls off, I think the lowest he'll get is like 93, 94. I think he's in that 93 to 108 spot for the year.
And that's still a lot for a defenseman.
Oh, absolutely. It's a ton. But I think that his early point production will carry him to that from here. Because really,
Well,
that's only 60 points in 60 games from here on out. Like it's not that much when you think about it. He's a point per game defenseman, sure, but he's not going to be like a point and a half per game defenseman like he started out the season to be, which is already showing that the last couple of games he's actually gone down a couple notches on his points per game.
well, this team's got to stay healthy for him to even get to that 100-point mark, right? You got Pedersen and JT Miller at the end of the year injured. He'll still be a point per game defenseman, but this team's got to stay healthy for him to see that milestone in his career, right? So
Exactly.
Speaking of Pedersen, I heard that they met with his agent in Denver when they were playing the Avalanche last week, and they were slowly chipping away at talks with getting a contract extension going again. So hopefully, by the summer, they can definitely lock down Pedersen long term, because he's made it known. He likes to play in Vancouver, so hopefully they can get it done. And yeah, I mean, hopefully it's not weighted on his mind too much, and he's just focused on helping his team win. But yeah, apparently talks are back in motion.
I guess
well, and
that's the next question is who gets more money, Nylander or Pedersen? Who do you think is going to get the bigger contract come the end of the year?
I think Nylander.
Nylander.
Yeah, in my opinion, Nylander. Pedersen will have a close number though. I think Vancouver's gonna, it's gonna come to a point where Vancouver's just gonna go to his agent and just with a checkbook and be like, write down a number. Like that's how bad I think Vancouver needs to keep this kid if he has a good year this year and stays healthy. But I don't see him making more than Nylander by the end of the year. And if Pedersen signs before Nylander, well then Nylander knows how much he's gonna want, right? So it might come down to who signs first to see who gets what.
And honestly, if you think about it, like Vancouver realistically has the cap capacity to sign Elias Pettersson at a comfortable price range, $7-8 million long term. As of, Toronto, they're in cap hell. You really think they're going to want to give a max deal to William Nylander? There's going to be no way. Him and his agent are not going to come to a deal at the bargaining table. This guy's going to be wanting at least 10 plus average, Like, there's just no way Nylander and Toronto are going to find a happy medium.
Here's what I think Pettersson is going to make more money. I think if he stays top 5 scorer in the league, I bet you he gets 11. That's my guess. He's going to get 11 because he's going to put the pressure on Vancouver. He's going to be like, I'm your best player. I'm your franchise center. Make your choice. And he's either going to be able to move on or not. And I think that Nylander is hampered by the situation he's in Toronto. And I think Toronto has to lowball at 9-5. And I don't think he's ending up in Toronto. That's my guess. I think he's going somewhere else unless they really, really fit him in under the cap and lose every other UFA they have. And then next year re-sign Tavares to a smaller deal. Maybe he'll get paid then, but I think they come in low. And I think he goes somewhere for the 10-5 he wants, where I even think it could be somewhere where there's like less state tax or something in the US where he actually gets to bank more. Because I saw just the other day, if he makes 10-5 or whatever, his take home is only going to be $5 million in Toronto. Like, that's how crazy the taxes are. So, like, really,
that's Ontario for you, bud.
Say he goes to Tampa or Florida or Dallas or Arizona, right? Or Vegas, and they're like, well, here's 9. Well, yes, he's still going to get taxed on it, but the state tax on income is way less. So he's pulling home, 7, 8 or in there.
There's also,
why would he not? Yeah. Why would he not go make more money? That's the crappy thing about NHL players is like the $10.5 million is on paper. It doesn't actually result in like the houses they buy and the cars they own because it's just all gone to taxes.
Well, you're also forgetting to factor in one important thing here is that, if Willie Styles' intentions are he wants to win in Toronto, there is a possibility he may take a slight discount to stay, because if he wants to stay in Toronto and win, they could come to a resolution where he might take a bit of a discount. Just like Nathan McKinnon, man. He took a discount for how long to build guys around him? Not like I'm saying Toronto needs to build guys around them, but I'm just saying if he takes that hometown discount and you've been playing there for a while just to win, I think there may be a possibility that might just come down to it this summer.
Here's my thing on it, though. Why is it his responsibility to take the hometown discount? Tavares signed $11 million to come there. Then they signed Marner to 10. And then here's Matthews saying, I'm going to take a team-friendly discount. And he signs that behemoth contract he signed this year. And now everyone's looking at Nylander, and they're like, you should take the team-friendly discount.
Yeah, but Nylander's already taken the hometown discount with his last contract. Dude. He's not going to do that twice, not for Toronto.
6.75 mil, right? Like isn't he below 7 mil, or is he above 8? He's low. Either way, it's lower than what it should be.
Honestly, that whole John Tavares contract effed them up. That's way too much money, man, for John Tavares. That's what's going to kill them in the end for this Nylander contract to get done. They're spending way too much on him, on JT.
That's the thing again, though. They had to sign him there for that number because he's only bringing home $6 million. Right? Like, for him to come home
sucks
to
being
Toronto,
Ontario, bud.
Exactly. But for him to, so the poll was, I want to come home to Toronto. They said, okay. But he's like, but I want to make good money. And that was the number that they came down to. I mean, good on his agent. His agent got, what was he? Was he 27, 28 at the time? They got like a 28-year-old John Tavares, $11 million a year. Like, good for them.
Well, he was coming off a good year that year, too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of Nylander, too, he also was riding a 17-game point streak. Like, that's pretty good going into the Global Series last week in Sweden, which was also a fun event. NHL always doing that. But it was so nice, bittersweet, him homecoming. He got to play in front of his family and friends. It was awesome for him. He was loving it.
Yeah, he was the star of the show. And they definitely made that known.
Yeah.
What was it, Madison Beer? Like, they had him on some talk show, and they, brought on Madison Beer, and it was like they were trying to, set up this like romance thing over a video call. It was hilarious. I don't know. I just saw a little snip of it, but it was just like, man, they're just hammering Willie Styles, and he showed up there in a white tank top, like on TV. Like he just didn't even care. It's middle of winter in Sweden, and he shows up in a tank top to this like professional TV show, and then they bring on like some pop star, and he's just like supposed to talk to her. He's like wheeling her on live TV. Like just, it was a gong show.
Nordic players are just built different.
Exactly. But yeah, he dominated over there. He ran the play. His goal was beautiful when he won the game for the Leafs. But he did get outdone by what I think is Stützle's game of the year in overtime for the Ottawa Senators when he batted that puck out of the air. That was a beautiful goal.
Absolutely.
So yeah, over there, when they played, the four teams of Toronto, Detroit, Ottawa, and Minnesota, Toronto went 2-0-0. Minnesota went 0-0-1-1 with a shootout loss and an overtime loss. Ottawa went 2-0-0, and Detroit went 0-1-1. So it was a good trip for the Ontario teams. It was not a good trip for the American teams, especially Minnesota, who had multiple leads and ended up coming out with just 2 points in overtime to shootout loss. So, and it ultimately led to Dean Evason getting fired just this past week, and then replacing him with John Hines, and an ex-Blazer, Dean Evason, for us. So a little bit of familiarity there. And it's actually hilarious. If you were on Twitter at all, the Minnesota fans were devastated. They were all like, I've never seen so much love for a fired coach. They were just out there posting like, oh, thanks for the memories, Dino, and all of his hilarious interviews where he's swearing at the reporters or swearing at his guys and report. Like, he was a character, and it seemed like the team loved him. But Bill Guerin, even though like 2 weeks ago in an interview, Bill Guerin backed him, just thought he had to make a change, and that's what he did. Other coaching news, though, Boston's Jim Montgomery now holds the record for the best points percentage in NHL history for a coach's first 100 games with a new team. He is 79-13-8 with the Boston Bruins, which is an 83% win percentage, which has not been done before. So, good for them, because Boston was expected to fall off this year. I had them out of the playoffs, and they're still the best team in the East. They showed that they weren't just center depth, that their whole team was deep and ready to go, and the goaltending has continued the same, and they're proving everybody wrong that doubted them, like myself.
Yeah, and that's huge. And I don't think they added like a whole lot, like new faces to that team, did they? Like,
They lost Hall. They traded Hall away, lost Bergeron, lost Krejci.
Bertuzzi, Orlov.
Yeah, Bertuzzi, Orlov. Like, they really lost a lot of pieces, and they've just kept going.
Another team that has kind of like, that young guy, kind of like those young guys that bring energy into the team with Patras, and well, that's really the only guy I know, but I know there's a couple others in there.
They've called up a defender. He's played pretty well when he's been up. I forget his name, but he played well.
But yeah, I do think Boston, just to kind of stay relevant in that cup race, I think they're definitely going to try to trade for some guys if they're thinking about, keeping the train rolling, right?
Exactly. A couple trade rumors that have gone around in Oilers news is rumors of Jack Campbell, Philip Broberg, and a high pick to Chicago, which was originally for Corey Perry and Peter Mrazek, but you could substitute another veteran there for that trade, maybe say Nick Foligno, if the Blackhawks want to cash in, because the Oilers still need a goalie. They still seem to be hoping that Jack Campbell's coming up. They brought in, I believe it was Manny Legacy, who's his good friend in the offseason who he works with. They brought him to Bakersfield to work with him as a goalie trainer. So we'll see what that does, but I think that there's just no way that he comes back and is the guy, just save your season. Like, no goalie has just been sent to the minors for such a poor performance and then brought back up and saved the season. You've had guys like Binnington who have come up playing really well in the minors, gone on to lead the Blues to a cup, but it's never been the way that it has been right now for Jack Campbell.
Well, and here's the thing with Edmonton too, is that they have $150,000 in cap, so they can't bring in another superstar to the already star-studded team and take on that guy's salary. So they're going to have to either move Jack Campbell's contract or even a plus in a package deal like we were talking about a few episodes ago. Like, something's got to give, and either you got to call someone up from your farm to make it work, or you got to really off someone's contract here and get someone signed or moved, because I don't know. But I won't roast, because you know what? McDavid has 12 points in 3 games. Kudos to him. Right on. You never, ever hear that from anybody other than McDavid, so go figure. But, you know, like, maybe that train is starting to roll again in Edmonton. So maybe just Jack Campbell was the problem.
Maybe.
I wouldn't say Jack Campbell was the problem. I mean, I think they lost a few games, sending him down regardless. But
yeah,
I mean, they've been winning since they brought that new coach in, though. So maybe you could say it's the coach.
It's starting to maybe look that way. It didn't at first. They won their first game, and then they went on like that 3-game losing streak right after that. But now they're like first in expected goals for and fifth in expected goals against. So they're starting to turn it around. But another trade I saw was Stuart Skinner and a first-round pick to the Philadelphia Flyers for Carter Hart. I think that's a bit of a steep price for Carter Hart, who just kind of has found his game again this year after almost 2 years of not really being at his best level. So I think a Stuart Skinner for Carter Hart almost straight across would be fair enough, because they're both good goaltenders who maybe just need a fresh start somewhere else. And Hart, being an Edmonton kid, could use that bump. But I just think that's a high price to pay your starting goalie and a first-round pick for another young goalie. It just seems like not what they need.
I think another possible trade we could probably see happening here is either Connor Brown being moved. I mean, he's making $775,000, and we have even Warren Foegele is a good trade target. You know, $2 million in cap space available there if he gets moved. I think Warren Foegele would be a big trade target come deadline for either Edmonton and a lot of teams around the league.
Yeah, I think Warren Foegele should be someone they should look to move out for that $2 million. He's in their bottom 6. They're paying him too much.
Yeah, he hasn't really panned out really as much as they had hoped. So,
me personally, I think Edmonton's going to make a bigger move than that. I still see Nugent Hopkins as a big trade chip in the Edmonton franchise. I think they might go with a more depth approach, trade Nuge for more depth players, and hopefully they can get Campbell out of there too. But I think they're going to need depth and a new goalie to help out Skinner as well.
I just don't know if they can convince him. He has a full no-move clause. I don't know how they can convince him to go to another team. I just don't think he will. I don't think he'll want to move. He'll just flex his muscle and say, no, you gave me no move clause. I'm not moving.
But I also do think they might wait till what their record looks like come around the trade deadline too, right? I mean, if they're starting to look like they're more of a winning team now, I think they might ride it out a little bit before they make that rash decision, but who knows?
Yeah, Nugent Hopkins is making $5.1 million till the end of 28-29. So I mean, that's a big contract to move. But I mean, they got a 3-headed monster there, just like the Penguins there in Edmonton. You know, you got Carlson, Crosby, and Malkin on the Penguins, but then you got like Ryan Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, and McDavid as their 3-headed monster. So moving a key piece like that,
9.25.
Yeah, that's another Jurassically disastrous contract to be paying out. But yeah, like I said, I mean, relatively moving Nugent Hopkins isn't impossible, but it would definitely be either cap friendly to the Oilers. But man, you better get a good package for him if you're willing to move him, that star player, out.
Well, again, I think that just comes down to let's see how they're going now, like which direction this team's going to go now with them starting to win more games, Like, I'm not saying Nuge is going to get traded, but if they start losing, a big name, I think, will go.
Yeah, it'll start to be the Toronto talk, right? The core 4, who needs to go out of the core 4? And
yet they always seem to find a way to keep them, right?
It was interesting.
Somehow, some way.
I just read that Kyle Dubas was entertaining ideas of blowing up the core four before he left Toronto officially. So take that for what it is. Could just be, whatever, people talking. But I just read something on that and I thought, well, that's interesting. Obviously it would have probably had to have been Nylander because he was the only one with like a 1-year deal, not full trade protection. But there is lots of people who are still saying Mitch Marner should be traded, and then he goes and scores a hat trick today, and all I see is Mitch Marner is the best player in the league. So it's hard to justify who they were thinking of, but it definitely wasn't Matthews, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, yeah, both him and Matthews were held pointless like for multiple games there, and then I mean, he got right back on the saddle and scored a hat trick tonight, so good for him. But like, never count Mitch Marner out. He's always got something up his sleeve, and he's always in talks of being a top 10 player in the league for sure. Yeah, we have our slumps, but you know what? He'll get right back on the saddle. Like I said, he'll start killing it again.
Yeah. Going back to your Penguins there, though, Dally, tonight, Tristan Jarry actually scored a goal on the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that's pretty cool news, the fact that he managed to get one in the NHL. He's also scored in the AHL.
Yeah, well, fun fact about that is that's not only his first NHL goal as a goalie, it's also the first goalie goal in all of Pittsburgh Penguins history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I was happy for him, even though I was against my Lightning, and they crapped the bed after the first period. But, I mean, how are you not pumped for a goalie goal? I mean, it doesn't matter who it's against.
Always.
It's always exciting.
Yeah. Like, you just got to be thrilled every time. Yeah, these guys, they get shot at hundreds of thousands of times a year. Practice, warm-up, games, and then they finally get the chance to put a puck in the net in their career. And, I mean, that's a stat line forever. Tristan Jarry will forever have an NHL goal. And that's something that 99% of goalies can't say. And it's awesome to see.
Here, talking about goalies for a quick second, here's a side topic that I was talking about today. Connor Ingram, great goalie, killing it for Arizona. But he has two assists, so 2 points on the year. You know who else has 2 points on the year in the same amount of games as Connor Ingram? Is the overpaid, overrated Trevor Zegras. What are your boys' thoughts on Trevor Zegras this year?
I definitely think this kid's a little bit overhyped. But isn't he injured, Zegras, though?
Nope.
No? Okay.
He's still going. No,
Drysdale's out.
Yeah, Jamie Drysdale, but no, he's just extremely underperforming. He just got locked down. He got that big bag about a month ago, and then he's just where are you? Like, not even on the score sheet there, buddy. Like, wow, imagine getting paid $5 million to do absolutely nothing for the Anaheim Ducks. Like, must be nice, boys.
I think that the offseason weighed on him. Talk about being a guy who rose so quickly to stardom, right? NHL cover athlete. He's, one of the top guys in terms of the All-Star game performances, right? Like, he's just always in the show. And then now all of a sudden his NHL team is like, yeah, we don't think you're as good as you think you are. We don't want to sign you for what you think you're worth. And then he gets like half the cut on the contract and a 3-year deal. And it's just like, well, there you go. We don't really believe in you that much. And now all of a sudden he's like, well, crap, they don't believe in me. And here I am playing like they don't believe in me. And it's just spiraling out of control for him. And I don't know if he has the confidence now to come back right away. He's going to need some time to pick up the slack. Put him with some better players too. I think he's on like second or third line. They're demoting him. Like, play him with some good players and give him a chance. Like, yeah, I don't know.
You know what's funny about that is the guy that's outperforming him is making $2 million less. And Frank Vetrano there, he's been killing it for Anaheim this year. And you know what? Like, money can talk, but man, production has walked for this kid. Like, like, I'm sorry, like, there's no roast here, but it's like, I think the Ducks made a huge mistake in, locking him down for that.
You just called him overrated and overpaid.
Well, guy's been all roast.
you just set him on fire out in the desert in California. Like, you're like, don't worry, dude, I'm not roasting you.
Like, I'm just trying. My point being is that, like, yes, okay, you got your bag. You got your payday. Yeah, everyone has their slumps, but like, man, hopefully he can either get out of this or Anaheim made a huge mistake and they're going to start paying for it dearly.
I think they're fine because they're rebuilding. They only signed him 3 years. If he sucks, they're not really on the hook. They can retain him. Like, they're not going to be good for 4 or 5 more years. So
Yeah, it could also
they're
be
like,
trade bait
meh.
too.
Yeah, exactly. In his last year, retain him, send him to someone else, let him walk, just get a little bit of assets for him and move on. But I think he's going to be fine. You got to remember, he didn't really get much of a training camp. He wasn't allowed to train with the team for the month before the season because he didn't have a contract. Like, that stuff weighs in to how you perform, and I think he's just behind everyone else right now. I think come middle of the year, he'll be just fine, but right now he's definitely, a step behind.
I don't know. I still think he's going to have a disappointing year. I mean, he might have a jump back next year, right? He very well could, but I think this year this kid's going to have a disappointing year.
Which is what he can afford now, I guess, because he's got 3 years to figure this out before he gets paid again. But
Exactly.
on to some more fun stuff. A new hockey movie is coming out called Minor Leaguer from Teemu Solani. It's got Brett Hull in it as well, so that's kind of good to see. It's kind of goofy. It's kind of funky. It's got some, guys like Teemu Solani who've never acted before, and you can definitely tell. But in terms of, not having much hockey content and hockey movies coming out, it's something that hockey fans should check out for fun and give these guys a shot to see if it's worth watching or not. But I think it looks all right. And now we're going to get into some of the unis, the tarps, our mainstay here. Let's talk about the teams and their off-color buckets. What do you think? Blue helmets, white jerseys, white helmets, blue jerseys. What are your thoughts on that being changed up and allowed now?
I dig it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
I dig it too.
I bet you we won't see the Islanders do it because Lou Lamoriello won't even let his guys have beards. So no way he's letting them wear different colored helmets with different jerseys. But I think lots of other teams like Toronto did it right away. New Jersey did it with the black helmets with the white roads. And I don't know who else did it. I think I'm missing someone else who did it. But a couple teams have started to jump into it, which looks good to me. I like it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've never personally played hockey, but like, has wearing a white helmet ever like been a distraction on the ice?
No, I mean, like, there's what is it, like 216 games I think they labeled that wouldn't work. Like, let's say Toronto playing Tampa and one of them or both of them wearing blue helmets, right? You pick your head up quick, right? You pick your head up quick. You're looking for the blue helmet because you're the blue team, and all of a sudden everyone's got blue helmets, and it would just cause turnover. So there was like, of whatever, there's 800 and something games on the schedule, and only 216 of them were like either black teams, white, all the white road jerseys, right? You can't obviously wear a white helmet when someone else is wearing white, and then you've got the blues. So yeah, there was just a couple that were not allowed, but for the most part, it's something that should be just fine and not an issue. And then let's talk about the Vegas and Kraken's Winter Classic jerseys and frankly how ugly they are. Because I think that they are a mess. I am not a fan of them. I think that they could have done so much better, and they fumbled this one.
Honestly, I have a bone to pick with the marketing people that decide to get in a room together and be like, let's design an NHL jersey. And you know what? After the last 2 years, I feel like the creativity in all these jerseys going into these special outdoor games has just dropped off a fucking cliff. Like, I am so pissed off with the lack of advertisement they've been doing, the lack of creativity they've been putting in these jerseys. Like, the Vegas one just absolutely looks atrocious. Like, hardly put any detail into it. And I remember a few episodes ago, boys, we were talking about how, you should be incorporating more. Like, take this Calgary jersey behind me, for example. We got the airport code, and then on the front of the jersey, you got the skyline, going across the torso. Just creativity. It doesn't take much to make your jerseys pop. And what the Vegas is, it's just white with a black and gold stripe at the bottom with a V, a gold V. Like, yip-de-doo. That's so bland. And then the way they leaked it was from an AEW wrestlers. Like, holy fuck, was that horrible.
And whatever, was it baseball or basketball? What team? It was basketball,
So the
wasn't
Utah...
it? That
Yeah,
had the Seattle jerseys, like just weird way. Like the NHL, all around, it was the strangest thing that no one even saw coming. And also, they should have called it like something other than the Winter Classic. Like they should just called it the outdoor game, because like there are teams that don't have any history in the league. How can they be a classic when there's nothing? That's why I think they struggled so hard to make these jerseys, because it's like, what history do these teams have? I get Seattle tried to do the red S for the red team that they used to have there, but why didn't they do the whole jersey red then? Like the red on the blue, black, and white looks stupid. I think it's terrible.
Well, I think... Sorry, Dakota. I think for the history part of it, like it's not like they're doing a heritage classic like the Oilers and Calgary Flames did right now. Mm-hmm. It's just a winter classic, and a lot of these teams don't need to really incorporate their history behind it all, but at least a little bit of creativity, guys. That's all I got to say.
I think they're just going to what looks like a vintage style of jersey you would see in that time. You know, I mean, jerseys back then obviously weren't that crazy, right? You're not creative like back in the 80s, 70s, whatever, but I think they're just genuinely going for the vintage look. And I don't know how you add creativity to that. I mean, obviously that Calgary jersey, that was not a heritage classic jersey brought into the thing. That was, that was like a city jersey, whatever they did. It was a special kind of jersey, so I think they hit it. You guys just roasted the hell out of them, but I dig it personally.
I don't. I really don't. I think Seattle's is lost with the side stripes and all the different colors, which is cool if the logo wasn't red. Like, the logo being red is just dumb. There's nothing about the Kraken other than the eye of their actual logo that is red. And I think that they should have just kept it to their colors and had the jersey with the stripes, and it would be probably pretty cool. And then the Vegas one, they could have done pretty much anything else, and it would have looked cool. I just think that it's ugly and plain. It doesn't look like an NHL jersey. I'll say that. It does not look like an NHL jersey.
Honestly, I'm not a personal fan of the barber pole style jerseys, man. It's too much of an eyesore. Like, you got the 3 complementary colors all in lines going all the way down the jersey. Like, that's just too much of an eyesore. You're not even making it pop at that point. You're just throwing a bunch of fucking colors together and calling her a fucking day. So bland. I hate it. If they would have used the Seattle Kraken's retro reverse jersey from last year, holy boys, that would have looked fucking clean.
Yeah, they would have been better off doing something else.
If those were this year's Winter Classic jerseys, I would have given it an A+.
Peanut gallery over here, man. Jeez.
Keeping it...
Tough crowd, man.
Keeping it to Vegas, though, them and the Henderson Silver Knights' new affiliate in the ECHL will be starting up next year. The Tahoe Night Monsters have released their name and logo. I texted you guys this. The name is a 0 out of 10. The logo is a 10 out of 10. And the color scheme is a 10 out of 10. But what is a Tahoe Night Monster? Night spelled like Vegas Golden Knights. Like, that makes no sense. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to be funny, but like, this is a pro hockey team. And
yeah,
like
they're definitely trying to keep the night in their team name, right? Like, I don't know. You don't need it for all 3 teams, guys. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
What, are they keeping it medieval theme? Like, do you want it to be the Tahoe horse and carriage? Like, what the fuck's going on?
Like, are they gonna have all like team captains like meet at the round table and discuss like Vegas stuff, boys?
Yeah. Like, well, isn't there already a Monsters in the AHL? They're Cleveland, right?
Yeah, the Cleveland Lake Monsters of the AHL. Columbus is a farm team. The Lake Monsters.
They couldn't be the Lake Tahoe Monsters or the Tahoe Lake Monsters, so I see why they didn't go there. But why even monster? Like, it's clearly a dragon. Dragons are always in fairy tales of knights versus dragons. So why didn't they just call them like the Tahoe Dragons? Like, it would have been just fine. And maybe they weren't allowed because we all know how hard it was for Vegas to name themselves the Golden Knights. There was all these problems and other teams, the college teams were fighting against them from using that name. But like,
fuck, you know what? Honestly, you could have called them the Lake Tahoe Ogopogos, of myth, the sea monsters, the Ogopogo, like just at least that's more original than
I don't know if they know what
whatever
the
the hell they're called.
is, though. The Ogopogo is, I think, just up here in
Buddy,
Canada. I think
that's the Loch Ness.
They're different, bud. They're different. The Loch Ness is
Kinda
like
not.
the long necked dinosaur with the fins, and the Ogopogo is just supposedly a giant snake in the water. Supposedly.
Man,
I mean, when
honestly,
I played football, there was an Ogopogo team, and I'm pretty sure they just had a dragon on their logo. So
right?
I honestly don't know.
What does the Kelowna Rockets logo look like to you, though?
It's an Ogopogo,
yeah, it's an Ogopogo.
It looks like a dragon,
dude.
Yeah, it's like a dragon, yeah. which is not the Loch Ness monster.
Well, in the Native Americans' belief, the Ogopogo is what they call the Loch Ness monster.
Yeah, so get educated, Riley.
I guess so. I'm getting educated today. So you can call them the Tahoe Ogopogos if you want. That's a lot of O's in there, but go for it.
It's better than the Night Monsters or whatever the heck you said.
It is better than the Night Monsters. They will. The team either won't last or it'll have its name changed quick because
they're gonna have it's gonna be a laugh for a minute, I think, dude.
Yeah, people were literally saying like Vegas way too committed to the word night, like Henderson Silver Knights, Vegas Golden Knights, and
you know what?
Isn't even Knights.
Dude, they could have been the Tahoe Dark Knights and just had Batman as their logo, dude.
That would have been hilarious.
Hey, you know what, boys? You know what? We got the Golden Knights, the Silver Knights. Might as well call them the fucking Bronze Knights at this point for your A-tier fucking
that
team.
That would have been hilarious. That would have been hilarious.
Oh, man.
Right? The Bronze Knights. It's settled. Lake Tahoe Bronze Knights.
Literally third place team, second place team, first place team, boys.
Yeah.
Right?
That's perfect.
Don't add us, NHL. Don't add us. We come up. We're geniuses. We're geniuses.
Trademarked. New team.
Yep, that's it. We own those rights now. We were first to come up with it.
What is it like carrying these genius head around? I don't fucking know.
I don't know. I didn't even know the Ogopogo was Loch Ness monsters, so I am tapped out on this one.
A person who thinks has nothing to think about except thoughts, boys.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, well, I guess there's no better place to end episode 13 than there, talking about Ogopogos and night monsters. So, glad we were able to hop on. As always, everyone, thanks for listening. Follow us on all social media platforms, all places you listen to your podcast, and as well now on YouTube. These videos, starting episode 12, will now be live on YouTube very soon. So thanks again for listening, everyone. Have a great night.